is the original design about the point that I became involved in the project. It did change quite a bit. This original design had a den here and a bathroom here, den slash exercise room. We quickly realized that was going to require a separate HVAC system in order to properly heat and cool, get enough airflow in the area. Same thing with a separate ventilation system. Also, the plumbing was off way by itself and far from the square. We try to get all our plumbing in a small space so that it can be more efficient for hot water flow. And then we also realized that this extra space was going to push them over their desired budget. So that went for fairly early on. So this is the preliminary print, and we'll move into the final print. You can see a lot more detail. It has been added. That space is gone, but now we have a larger screen porch off to the side. Some other things over here have been shifted around. One thing we realized pretty early on as well, after we're doing a site walk, was that the garage was going to need to be lower than we originally planned, or than the prints originally showed. So we played around with things like the ceiling height in the garage and the window height of these rooms upstairs, which I spoke about earlier, and realized we were going to need plenty of room for extra steps up in here. So that garage was manipulated in order to fit the site better because of the pre-construction work that we do. Additionally, where do you run the ducts? You've got a two-story portion of the home over here, but this is one story, all a big open space. Where do you run the ducts to heat and cool this area? We contemplated things like a spiral duct hanging in the middle of the ceiling, like you'll see sometimes in commercial spaces. But ultimately, what we opted to do was to put the ducts under the floor. Now, of course, we want our ducting in conditioned space. We don't want to lose heat as the ducts move air through the home. So how did we accomplish that? Well, this was one of those things that was a win-win. Because of the flat site, at least on this portion, we could use something called a frost-protected shallow foundation. Walls are only a couple feet down. We put a layer of insulation, 5 inches to be exact, right at the bottom, put our ducts in, and then filled with a couple of feet of sand all around the ducts. So not only did that get our ducts in the conditioned space, but it also gave us 2 extra feet of thermal mass. So this floor that we're standing on can absorb a ton of heat and helps regulate the temperature in this area, so it should not fluctuate much at all. So that extra thermal mass was something that we realized we could do. Another thing we realized in pre-construction and by selecting all of our products first was that the tub that they chose needed the air bubbler to be in a separate area. It needed to be in the cabinet. Well, we had to have a space to get the air over to the tub. So that helped us realize we needed to fur a wall out so that the insulation barrier wasn't compromised. So all that made it into the final drawing. All that is pre-construction work that when you hire a builder like us to do design build, you get to reap the rewards of, rather than finding all this out after construction or ending up with a home that really doesn't sit very well on the lot. So some of the things during construction that I'd like to talk about. We saw that we could add the window seat upstairs. I pointed that out already. The fireplace, as you're looking at it here, once the space was kind of configured, the homeowner said, you know, I think I'm going to like it a little different than I originally planned. So this turned out different and for the better. Really nice bench across the whole distance, slat wall feature. All that was changed after construction. And then we also mentioned the extra countertop in the laundry. Very little changes after construction started because of all the planning we put beforehand. And all of these changes were fairly easy to accomplish. So let's talk about some of the problems that we encountered during construction. Some of the problems that we didn't solve or didn't anticipate during the design process. Take a look out the window here and notice the height change down to the road. That's a big slope. So one of the problems that we had was one of our wall pours here needed to be made during the winter, and that driveway was sheer ice. Getting a pump truck up, getting our ready mix trucks up, that was not going to happen. So we had to pause construction for about a week while we waited for an opportune time, and then I came about 6 hours early and just loaded salt on the driveway to make sure that that was going to work. So that was a problem we encountered, caused about a week delay. Another problem that was more significant that we encountered was that our concrete floor curled. Now, what does that mean? Concrete, as it cures, loses volume. It shrinks. And what happened here was that the bottom of the concrete shrank more, the top of the concrete shrank more rapidly than the bottom. And so the floor does this number, usually at the construction joints, at the saw cuts, curled up. Probably because it was a slightly different design than we've done. Typically, we're pouring directly on the foam and vapor barrier. Here, we were pouring on 2 feet of sand. So that was a massive problem once we started doing the flooring. We had to come in and grind a bunch of that flat. We had to fill a couple of low areas. In short, if we were to do that again, we would want to do it during a different season. So that particular delay only set us back a day or two, not real bad. What's another one? Oh, we'll get to this when we get outside. Another one, let's just taking a look at the flooring here. Looks beautiful, looks natural, fits with the color scheme of the home very well. But the original product chose was installed. We came out and looked at it, and the color variation was just too much. There were some greens in there along with the grays. It just didn't work. So we removed the flooring. The manufacturer said, hey, we think you got some bad lots. They sent us new flooring. We started installing that, didn't get too far, it was the same thing. Sent that back and made a new selection on the flooring. That can be done, but it cost us probably 3 weeks because we had to order all of the flooring in 2 more times than normal to put that in. So that was a bit of a fiasco, and if you're counting, we're at just a little over a month of delays right now. One of the things about a custom home is in order to get it right, sometimes that does mean pushing that schedule out. Some other problems. Oh, this was a fun one. The bubbler tub that I pointed out, on the drawings that came with it, they said, hey, you need to have power to this area for the tub. Okay, so we planned that. We got power to that area. Tub came, power needed to come from a different spot. We actually had to chisel up the floor, run power under, and re-pour that. We had to pull tile up and everything. Went back. Did we have the wrong document? No, it was the right one. We think the manufacturer changed something mid a product run. Those sorts of things happen as well when, again, it's a custom home, it's a one-off tub. It's not the same tub in every single house. So these things can happen. Let's take a look at the windows and slider doors here. These are a fiberglass window, and it's a triple pane. Fiberglass is more expensive than vinyl. So why did we use fiberglass? Well, there's a multitude of reasons why. One of which is fiberglass is stronger, which means it can take heavier glass without bending. And when we're doing triple pane and we want large windows, we want a strong sash. Another reason is black vinyl tends to expand and contract a whole lot more in the heat. Fiberglass is very stable, has the exact same thermal coefficient as glass. Fiberglass, glass. Therefore, the expansion and contraction is the same, and these seals should last a whole lot longer than if we had used a vinyl window here. Why triple pane? Well, our homes are airtight, as you probably know. And an airtight home does not dry out naturally in the winter, nearly at the rate that a leaky home does. The outside air is very dry in the winter, inside air is moist, And a typical home leaks that moist air out, brings in the dry air. So your humidity levels are typically lower. With triple pane windows, we can have elevated humidity in the house for comfort and not worry about condensation on the windows. So all of those are the reasons that led us to triple pane windows and then ultimately to a fiberglass frame. Without stepping into the mechanic room to show you equipment, we'll use the controls as our reason for talking about it. So we have a heat pump system here. There's a multitude of reasons why we've done that. One is it has no combustion in the home. So this home is all electric. Combustion introduces the possibility of carbon monoxide leaking into the home when things malfunction. The second reason is most inspectors are going to make us install a duct open on both ends from inside to outside of the house just to passively let fresh air in the home for those combustion appliances. We have none of that. We want our homes to be airtight. Yes, a heat pump does work in Michigan in the winter. It works all the way down to about 5 degrees. And if we get colder than that, there is resistive elements to create the heat. But in Michigan, in this part of Michigan anyways, probably never going to hit that. So a heat pump system is kind of our standard or our go-to for a healthy and efficient home. Over here we have the controller for our energy recovery ventilator, and this thing can operate in a smart setting here where it measures the humidity levels and CO2 levels in the house and determines how often it needs to run. So it's going to be constantly monitoring that air quality, turning up or down as needed. It knows the difference between day and night, so you can set your preferences if you want it off at night or for quiet reasons or whatever. And by being smart, we know that we're always having the right amount of fresh air. We're not relying on leaks to bring in our fresh air. We're bringing it in through the ventilation system, and it recovers the heat from all the air that we dump out of the house. So we pull our air out of the bathrooms. It's usually moisture that we don't need, and we bring fresh air in to the area that we're standing right now. And all of those routes are planned ahead of time during construction so that we can make sure each room has the right amount of fresh air going to it. Some of the problems or challenges that we had out here were the mortar color. We wanted a consistent dark color. One thing about concrete is that when you are coloring it, the amount of water you put in every batch is critical and will throw the color off a little bit. So there's a touch more variation than that we would have loved to have had. The last challenge is one thing that we did not catch during design, and you can see it from back here. If you look above the corner of that window right there, you see that our roof slopes back up. We realized as we were framing this that that roof was sloping right into the corner of the house, and that was going to be a massive water problem. So we added a little cricket there to make sure that the water drains away from the home. And that's the Knockadoon house. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you're interested in having a zero energy ready home like this, WaterSense certified, Energy Star certified, a couple other certifications I'm forgetting, get a hold of us today.